The dearth of infrastructure, it's identified as one of the major factors militating against tangible economic growth in Nigeria. What's your take?
To start with, infrastructure encompasses a whole gamut of things, inclusive of roads, bridges, schools, hospitals, and real estate, broadly categorized as economic or social infrastructure. Recent researches have revealed that infrastructure has both hard and soft components. For instance, infrastructure can also be seen as a process by which activities are carried out. As such, infrastructure is imperative to economic development of any nation. Very readily, it is self-evident socio-economic activities cannot take place without infrastructure, and hence it is impossible to develop economically without adequate infrastructure. Consequently, it is seen as the very fabric with which economic growth of a nation is clothed. Literally, without infrastructure, such a nation is naked and exposed to the harsh vagaries of nature. And this is putting it mildly.
Are you saying that infrastructure is a prerequisite for economic development?
This is so. We must understand what economic development means. It ultimately addresses the intersections between people and their ability to meet needs. In other words, economic development does not happen for the sake of itself. Rather, it is a derived function, a means to an end. Now, let us demonstrate the importance of infrastructure. If you have cash crops in Jos, a processing plant in Lokoja, a seaport in Lagos, and a local market for the byproducts in Kano, the intersections among Jos, Lokoja, Lagos, and Kano is provided by transport and mobility. If there are no means of moving the crops, no processing plant to convert the items from one form to another, guess what happens? The crops will simply rot away. So infrastructure in this case, road, plant, seaport are critical. However, this is different with more advanced economy. Right now, they are looking at societal transformations and infrastructure intersection through the concept of optimal or marginal utility of additional investment in infrastructure. Understanding the linearity between infrastructures and societal transformation, you are right, they remain critical to economic development, and indeed, it is almost impossible to grow without adequate infrastructure.
Right. President, looking at the development concept in Nigeria, why are we not, talking of human capital development?
With due respect, many people who speak of infrastructure are only looking at the tiny side of the coin. Infrastructure has a wider meaning than many had thought in the past. New researches in this field have demonstrated that human capital development is part and parcel of infrastructure.
This program is powered by Igwehi Transatlantic UK, technical partners to Algorithm Limited. Their services include property sale and purchase, facility management, public-private partnership advisory services, due diligence research and training, project development. You can reach them on WhatsApp on 0808 439 1440, or you can call or text 0703 595 8339. Right, you're listening to Dr. Infrastructure right here on WeFM 106.3. My name is Camry, and I'm here in the studio with Dr. Infrastructure himself, W. Akhator. So that you said human capital development is part and parcel of infrastructure. How do you mean?
We first must understand what human capital development really is. It is the soft part of infrastructure. Human capital development is predicated on a number of factors. First, human capital development to achieve what? You have to define what you want to achieve. Second, human capital development for what purpose? What age group are you covering? Which market do you intend to cover? And which sector of the economy are you dealing with? Some years ago, I did a program at Oxford University in the UK. 4 classmates of mine were doing PhDs in the benefit of using bicycle as alternative option in transport. This program was sponsored by their government. They came from Italy, UK, Poland, and China. These kinds of knowledge are specific at solving societal problem and accentuating economic development. I suspect this is what you meant by human capital development. Human capital development remains the fulcrum for all infrastructure advancement and indeed for moving any society from one stage to the other, which we call societal evolution. Yes, human capital is needed. Again, you cannot possibly conduct human capital development without the hard components of infrastructure, such as school, books, equipment, and materials.
Right. What is the true state of infrastructure development in Nigeria? Can you give examples of key infrastructure in Nigeria that's capable of driving development in line with global standards?
There are many infrastructure across the length and breadth of Nigeria, either as rail lines, roads, power plant, housing, aviation, and dredging of ports. These projects are capable of propelling growth and enhancement of citizens' well-being. Some years ago, we conducted an economic study to determine the viability of using water transport to ease mobility in Lagos. One of our findings revealed that Lagos Lagoon needed massive dredging, without which investors may not be willing to put funds into the project. Again, one was privileged to be associated with some investors at Lagos Dockyard. Again, one was the PPP advisor on Africa Development Project. These kinds of projects, in my humble view, accentuate economic development and growth. Some years ago, we did a study on how to deliver a 6-lane motorway between Lagos and Abuja using PP option. I equally conducted a research on Apapa gridlock, where we provide some solution and forwarded a report to the Minister of Transport then. It is gratifying to note that he responded to our report and mentioned that they were taking steps to deal with some of the recommendations which we made in that report. I am sure there are many more projects in Nigeria. The extent to which they are able to contribute to national growth is predicated on their successful delivery. And this is what separates countries into global south and global north.
Okay, now the Nigeria government's been borrowing from external sources to finance infrastructure projects. What exactly is the problem?
First, we have to understand infrastructure is an asset. As a rule, borrowing to finance an asset is good. However, it would seem that there are some weaknesses in the process thus far. Just like any other human activity, we must continue to find new ways to do what we're doing, to improve what we're doing. Based on the information in the public domain, we found that the funds are not optimized. We equally found that the funds are spread into too many projects. Consequently, we are not able as a nation to develop and implement a project to a functional state. Thirdly, in some cases, the design, the development, execution from conception to delivering needs some rethinking. According to the information in the public domain by NBS, National Bureau of Statistics, most states in Nigeria have been borrowing for some time now. If there were companies, receivers would have been called in for winding up, according to some experts. So that, in a nutshell, is the state of infrastructure as we have it today.
So what's the way out?
In my humble summation, take one project at a time. Complete it. Ensure it is functional. That way, you can derive economic value from a project that is functional. Recall at the beginning I mentioned that infrastructure are not developed for the sake of infrastructure. They are derived activities. In some cases, some would say there's corruption. But everywhere in the world, there are some elements of corruption everywhere. But what we've seen is that people are still able to do certain things, are able to make some achievement if we use experts to execute projects. Secondly, we also have to look at our reward systems. We need to change our reward system. In most society where infrastructure have been delivered successfully, you would find accountability and responsibility are essential in societal transformations.
This program is powered by Igwehi Transatlantic UK, technical partners to Algorithm Limited. Their services include property sale and purchase, facility management, public-private partnership advisory services, due diligence research and training, project development. You can reach them on WhatsApp on 0808 439 1440, or you can call or text 0703 595 8339. Right, you're welcome back to Dr. Infrastructure here on WeFM 106.3. My name is Camry, here with Dr. Infrastructure himself, W. Akhator. Right, let's move now to the cost of infrastructure. Why is infrastructure so expensive in Nigeria that government borrows with huge debt servicing rates?
Infrastructure is not cheap anywhere in the world. The real problem, in my view, is the abandonment of projects. Abandoned projects are the most expensive projects.
Okay, that's interesting. Now, Nigeria has been borrowing from China lately. It seems China has virtually become our main development partner. What are the economic implications?
Some years ago, I did a comparative study which I submitted to United Nations University in Tokyo, Japan. Part of what we found in that report is that some of these projects are not following global standard of execution. In some cases, China does the feasibility study, the design, develop the project, finance and execute, as well as provide equipment and men. Do you need a crystal ball to foretell the future? It is self-evident, default. Now, who benefits in the likely event of a default? China. China recently took over Djibouti major seaport. Africa is either by commission or omission marching towards second phase of colonization. The way out: separate project into different components, infuse local content, use Nigeria expert in its overall project development and management. I reviewed a report recently where some eminent scholars from the Western world posited that Africa is designed to remain an agricultural continent producing cheap raw materials. But do you know what? The nation who manufactures or produces lead, economic power come from production, not consumption. If you study manufacturing sector across Africa over the last 50 years, the percentage contribution to global output is declining at accelerated rate. African leaders need to look inward and use Africans to develop Africans. Our aim remains to inform, educate, and inspire, and as well as form new narratives in infrastructure development. I would give you just an example. The UK government has taken a decision that from 2027, all Hawaii investment in 5G infrastructure will discontinue. There is also a project called the HS2 project connecting London to West Midland. This project is primarily done by the citizens of the UK. So we have to ask ourselves some fundamental question as a nation, because nobody will develop Nigeria except Nigerians. We believe that the time to begin to look inward on how we can use a combination of modern technologies as well as improved indigenous method to take our nation from where we are to the next step is now. If we achieve that, we will have reduced unemployment significantly. We will have reduced youth unrest. And any nation where there's prosperity, people are happy and people grow. That's what we hope to achieve with this program.
All right, you heard it there from Dr. Infrastructure himself. Some massive key takeaways from that. First of all, infrastructure, it's very, very expensive. But while it is expensive, we need to also understand that the most expensive aspect of infrastructure are, for example, abandoned projects. So he's calling for a bit more strategic and targeted infrastructural approach from the government. It's better to take up one task, complete that task so the task can start to contribute economically to the society instead of spreading it thin and you have a lot of projects at various stages of completion. That, he says, is not going to benefit anyone. That's the most expensive form of infrastructure. Again, the key here is to share optimized solution for infrastructure delivery. Dr. Infrastructure?
In closing, one would like to say there is no nation on planet Earth which has not gone through a metamorphosis, moving from one stage of development and continuing to evolve to where they have become today. And we as a nation, if we are going to grow, we have to first recognize and believe in ourselves that we have the potential to develop as a people. Recently, I had the privilege of discussing with some colleagues, and I mentioned to them, if you remove all the medical doctors from Africa, from the West, the medical system in the West will collapse. Such is the power inherent in our people. It's time to look inward and develop our continent.
Thank you so much, W. Akhator. This program is powered by Igwehi Transatlantic UK, technical partners to Algorithm Limited. Their services include property sale and purchase, facility management, public-private partnership advisory services, due diligence research and training, project development. You can reach them on WhatsApp on 0808 439 1440, or you can call or text 0703 595 83